I was born in Pittsburgh.
Got the year?
1937, October 29th, by a midwife.
What was a typical day for you when you were a child?
Typical day. Played with my sister Zenobi.
How was the school system when you were a kid?
I went to Houghton High School, and it went from first grade to 12th grade. I attended all 12 years. All black teachers, black principal.
What was segregation like when you were a kid?
Hmm?
What was segregation like when you were a kid?
We had our own churches. We had our own bathrooms. Blacks had their own water coolers. We couldn't eat or go into a restaurant. We had to go to the back door to order.
What college did you attend, and what was it like?
Oh God, North Carolina, it's unchanged now. When I went, it was the North Carolina College in Durham. And I only went for 1 year. The rest of my schooling was in New York at business schools. North Carolina College, Durham, North Carolina.
Did anyone else before you in your family went to school?
Went to what school?
Like, did anyone ever attend like middle school, elementary school, college?
You mean my immediate family, like my mom, my dad like that?
Yeah.
My mother said she went to the 4th grade, and my father went like to the 5th grade.
How is school different than it is now?
Huh?
How is school when you were a kid different from now?
How was school different when I went to school? Different from now? Well, when I went to school, our books were the books from that the white schools had used and didn't want anymore. We had okay. After we got to like the 7th grade, we would have we would go from one class like for math, another class for English, another, and we had a homeroom like that, same as you do today. the big events at the school were social dances. We would have like what do you call that thing? You put money into it, and we would, or either they would bring we call it a big troller in those days. Put a record, big old round records like that on it, and then put the little thing down on it, and it would play. You seen them?
How was life like in New York?
Wait a minute, you said different from now. Oh, you don't want me to say what my school was different from yours. You already know that. You just want to know how mine was different from yours.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, is that all you wanted on me?
Yeah, that was really good. How was life like in New York, and why did you leave?
How's life like in New York?
Yeah, why did you leave?
Oh, I had to, being from the South, I had to adjust to New York.
What ways did you adjust?
I haven't finished. In the South, things went at a slower pace. In the North, everything went in a faster, might say faster what? Like faster pace. Okay.
Why did you leave?
Why did I leave? Because I wanted to get my children out of New York. In our home, I had an upstairs. If I'm downstairs in the kitchen, my children would sneak down the stairs, go out the door. I couldn't find them. So I told Ken, I said, Ken, this is no place to raise children. I said, we need to take them back home, and you need to and I see Kenny was from the north, my husband. I met my husband in the north, and he didn't want to move south, so he finally agreed to move south because he saw it wasn't good for the children either.
What was working like for you?
Huh?
What was working like for you as a black woman?
Well, I was one of the lucky ones that worked in New York because I worked for Consumers Union, and they hired all kinds of people. So I was lucky. I was lucky there. I didn't run into any. Well, let me back off that too. Yeah, I did run into. Most of there was no prejudice, but I did have one person working for me that was prejudiced. I taught her, and then she would turn on. She turned on me because of who she was. She was okay. She was poorer than me and living in Pelham. I had bought a home. I had a nice car. I mean, I lived pretty good in New York, and she didn't. And I think she knew that, and I think the prejudice came in. I think she resented me. It was her attitude toward me at certain times. But mostly speaking in New York, I didn't run into too much racial prejudice.
How was the prices like compared to today? Like, how was like buying? What was the prices like compared to today?
Prices like in New York or here?
And like during the time when you was like an adult and when you was buying stuff and like a child, like how like compared to today, like was it a lot more or is it less than today?
Things cost much less. When I was a child, you could get a bar of candy for 5 cents. Daddy could go to the store and buy a block of cheese for maybe 25 cents. and you could buy a big old 5 pound or 10 pound bag of flour that would last us a month for probably 50 cents or $1. But mostly in the South. Are we talking about the South or the North?
Either one.
Okay, let's do the South. This is the South. Mostly in the South, we had cows, pigs, chickens. So what you want to say about that? That's too country for you?
No, you can keep going. You can keep going.
But now when I lived in the North, you could go to the store and buy milk. They didn't have cows, pigs, and stuff like that in the North. But now when I came back in '73, next door they had a pig out there, and it smelled so bad. But mostly they were starting to buy everything in stores too. When I came back in '73. But when I left, most people had cows, pigs, chickens. You find that funny, don't you? I used to feed the chickens. And I had a dog named Snowball that would, when we get ready to cook a chicken, he would run and chase it down and hold it for us till we get him. And until we made the mistake of Mama told us, go get a chicken. And while we were telling the dog to chase the chicken, Daddy was talking to a white man. The white man saw us do it, and then he wanted to buy Snowball. So we didn't have him no more. Daddy sold him for $5. And we just cried. Same thing with Betty. We had a cow named Betty, and we loved Betty. And a white man wanted to buy Betty. We told Betty, when he came to pick up Betty, we said, bite him, Betty, bite him, Betty, bite him, Betty. I have an interesting childhood. A lot of stuff happened in my life. God, I could write a big book.
How was the fashion like compared to today?
The fashions? I think the dresses were more girly. I was thinking about it other day. Like, we would have dresses. You could go to the store and buy you a pink dress, a yellow dress, a green dress, a purple dress. You could have all colored dresses. But now I'm thinking about it. Now you can't hardly go in a store and buy all colored dresses. You have I had a wardrobe. When Kitty was dating me, I could just go and pick a colored dress. It's so easy. But now you got to go find a pair of pants, and you got to find a shirt to match. It is so hard. Nothing matches today. Nothing goes with anything today. You have to do it. You have to do the work yourself. And today, women wear more sporting clothes, shirts and jeans. But we dress more feminine in my day than I feel like the women do today. But I feel like today the women dress more sophisticated. You agree?
What viruses were like? What diseases and viruses were very prominent during your time?
Huh?
What viruses and diseases were very prominent?
I told you. I gave the answer that already. You mean when I was a child or a teenager, or when I lived in New York? Now, which one?
All of it, like everything you could think of.
Okay, the only virus you had was the common cold. And I'll tell you what we had to bother about most was tuberculosis, um, and we had to worry about syphilis. I told you that. You ever looked at how to spell it. And then a little later it was gonorrhea. We didn't get the flu. Well, the flu was like in your day, right? When we started getting the flu. Hmm? What's wrong with her? Oh. Um, but the the ones that we suffer now is the flu, COVID. Oh, one other one that we suffered when I was coming along was polio. That was bad at that time.
What was the worst thing you remember that happened, like a war or a bombing?
Well, we have been lucky here in America that we haven't. That's why Americans are really so spoiled now and don't want to wear a mask and inconvenience themselves because we are lucky people that have never had to give up anything like they did in England, where they had to run and find safety to hide because they were bombing nearby. Um, we haven't had it on our chores. We have been, we as a country, so far when it comes to bombings, war, we have been very lucky. The only two wars that we have had in America was the Revolutionary War when we won our freedom from England, and then the Civil War between the North and the South to save the. A lot of people like to say to free the slaves, but really it was to save the Union, because the North thought slavery was wrong, and the South wanted to keep slavery, so they went to war. So it was they so the South wanted to have its own president, and then in other words, they're gonna cut off from um, the president that we had then, which was Lincoln, and that wasn't in my day. I mean, you read all about that in history. The Civil War was in the 1960s. I mean, sorry, 1860s. 1860s. So that's the last war that's ever been fought, that's been fought in America. We have been very fortunate. We are very fortunate people. But we are spoiled. We so spoiled that we don't even want to wear a mask.
What about like 9/11?
Huh?
What about like 9/11?
What?
9/11?
9/11. That was a very sad day for me on two accounts. That was the day that Brandy, I think she couldn't get in touch with her mom or get in touch with anybody, and she walked to the hospital. But I'm not gonna tell you because I don't think you would understand that. I can tell you after I turn this off. Um, okay, so while Brandy was having her baby that was stillborn, we were very sad. I went out of the room where Brandy was. All the family was gathered in the room with Brandy because we were all sad about the loss of the baby that was stillborn. But I left out and went out, and there was a TV, and it was showing 9/11, and I was stunned. Then I went back into the room where the family was, and I was trying to tell them that something bad else was happening in the world, but they told me, shh, because they were in mourning over the baby, and they wanted me to be quiet. So they found out later about 9/11. Then they understood what I was trying to tell them, that we had two bad things happening at one time, a stillborn baby and 9/11.
What is society's greatest challenge?
Was that okay? But I'll tell y'all later on. Go ahead now.
What is society's greatest challenge?
Huh?
What is society's greatest challenge?
It's hard to hear that old stupid thing. What?
What is society's greatest challenge?
What is society's greatest challenge? You mean now? Yeah. What is society's greatest challenge? Well, I would say right now is COVID-19, getting it under control. Because if we don't get COVID-19 under control, we could face doom with this. So many will die. But hopefully we will all take our shots and get it under control. And until we get COVID-19 under control, I don't see how we can go forward on anything.
What political issue was the most important to you?
The political issue that was most important to me. What political issue was most important to me? Well, I can only go by all the political. I know you probably want me to say Martin Luther King, and the starting of civil rights for blacks. But I guess the other one would be when we were in America was in trouble, and Roosevelt started Social Security, and to me that's probably the greatest thing that's ever been one of the greatest that has been invented by brought to us by President Roosevelt, and Social Security. And you need to look up, make sure. I'm sure it was Roosevelt. Am I right? Roosevelt's Social Security.
Last question. What advice would you give future generations?
Oh, one other thing I want to say, the reason that about Social Security. Used to, like me, an older person would have to be taken in by a family member so that person could eat, have clothing and everything, because there was no money. There was no money for that person to stay in a home and take care of himself. But because of Social Security, that enables me to stay in my home, and I'm 83 years old. So that's why I chose Social Security along with Martin Luther King and Miss Parker. And the civil rights for black people. Now, what's your next question?
What advice would you give the future generation?
Make sensible and good decisions, because the decisions that you make today can affect you for the rest of your life.
Thank you.